Hello, everyone. So, in light of the release of the Epstein files, my story isn't nearly as horrific as some of the things that you'll read in the files. And yet, they left a lasting mark on me. And if you're wondering why, I'm not trolling Tammy. I'm really not. This isn't a troll. I am being very sincere in the things I have expressed, my concern, the realization that about Liza and how she came to this terrible, horrific end. Because I have my own experiences with being sexually abused. When I was 8 years old, my stepfather, he gave my mother drugs. He was involved in a alternative lifestyle, and my mother had never done drugs until she met my stepfather. And my stepfather had a thing for little girls, and one of those little girls was his own daughter. I was just his stepdaughter. And he would go down on me. I would wake up in the middle of the night to find him between my legs, and he would make me sit on his lap, and then he would rub against me with his erection. And I went to my mother multiple times to tell her that he was doing this to me, because I knew it was wrong, even at 8, 9 years old. And every single time my mother would go and confront him, and he would cry and tell her he was sorry, and they would get back together, and this went on and on, off and on for like 6 years. And finally, I, at 12 years old, had him put in prison. And ultimately, this is why I don't talk to my mother. Because she kept taking him back. After he went to prison for a year, he got a year for raping his own daughter and molesting me, his stepdaughter. He got a year, and my mother took him back into the home the day he got out of prison. Ultimately, they broke up because she found out he cheated on her with her best friend. Not that he touched her daughter or that he raped his own daughter, but that he cheated on her with her best friend. So yeah, I know a little something about this subject, guys. I know a little something about it. But fast forward to 1985, I'm on the cusp of turning 15, and we moved to Texas, and my mother's brother had a thing for little girls. He'd been raping the girls in our family for years, and my grandmother and grandpa covered it up. He raped his own sister. And on 2 separate occasions, once my grandmother walked in while my uncle was raping me, and she threw me out of her house. Another instance, my aunt, who was also a victim of her brother's rapey tendencies, she walked in on him raping me, and she turned around and left. Yeah, she turned around and left. I eventually had to extricate myself from this man by telling him that if he touched me again, I was going to slit his throat while he slept, and then tell the police why I did it. And he must have known that I was serious, because this had been going on 2.5 years, and I was finally done, because none of the adults in my life, and ironically, I kept it from my mother. I hid this from my mother because If my grandmother and my aunt were unwilling to protect me, and my mother took back my stepfather after knowing what he did to me, I didn't feel like my mother would help me either, so I just didn't tell her. And I handled it myself. So this is my childhood. This was my childhood. So yeah, I have a great deal of empathy for Liza. I did get pregnant. I miscarried in the bathroom at school, and I never told anybody. I dropped out of high school after that because fuck that shit. At Generation X, we were different. We were a different breed. So I went through this, got raped by my uncle, got pregnant by my uncle, had a miscarriage in the bathroom at school. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm out. So I went and got my GED, went to college, got married twice, had a couple kids, ended up living with a serial killer in New York and fleeing for my life because I got raped yet again. And Tammy cozied right up to Helgus, didn't she? And this is why I know that she blamed Liza and abused Liza, because I think about her knowing this about me. Tammy knew these things about me. I was very open about my experiences. I'm not ashamed to talk about what happened to me. Understand, I'm not in the least bit ashamed. I am not the rapist here. I am not the pedophile. So I don't care to protect these assholes from the consequences of what they did. I am not protecting these people. I have cut my own mother off. I went no contact, because wouldn't you? Wouldn't you go no contact if your mother stayed with your rapist and your molester? Exactly. So I don't talk to my mother. I already had a funeral in my head. I'm not in the least bit interested in ever speaking to that woman again. Not doing it. Don't care. She knows what she did. She knows exactly what she did. We've had conversations. And I'm sorry is not going to fix that. Like, I'm sorry? What the fuck you mean you're sorry? Okay. What the fuck? So, yeah. Fortunately, I never had any daughters. But if I had, you can bet your ass I would have been one of those ferociously protective mothers. I was ferociously protective of my sons. Had I had a daughter, I am confident that I'd be in prison right now for killing a bitch to protect my own daughter from the fate that I suffered. But considering that Tammy knew these things, that I had been through these things, and of course she's called me a liar, or she tells everybody that I'm lying. I have no reason to lie about things like this. And if you have a fucking ounce of discernment, then you will understand. You don't lie about these things. I've been, literally, if you know me long enough, I will tell you what happened to me. Because I know lots of men who have never sexually assaulted or physically assaulted a woman, but I don't know a single woman who has not experienced sexual assault. And that is a fact. So maybe not all men, but it is all women, isn't it? Every woman has a story. Not every man has a story, because not every man goes around assaulting and raping and molesting women and children, but every woman has a story. And I'm going to talk about it because, the Epstein files have been released, and I am not going to pretend like I didn't go through this. Why should I? Why the fuck should I hide and diminish and feel ashamed of what somebody else did to me. But that's how I know Tammy abused Liza. Because Tammy got custody because Liza was being sexually abused and physically abused by her birth parents. And when Liza didn't magically get better, because that kind of trauma stays with you, and you can't just shake that shit off, well, she blamed Liza, stole her child, and then kicked her out and fled the state. The day I miscarried my uncle's child, I didn't know it was a miscarriage. I thought it was just a bad period, but I'll remember being in the bathroom and having extremely bad cramps and passing a massive blood clot. It wasn't for years later that I would realize that that was a miscarriage. Thankfully. That's when my stance on abortion began to change, is when I realized that had I not miscarried, I absolutely would have had an abortion, because that was my uncle's child, and I was the victim of rape. So, I was in my 30s before I realized. Literally, that's how disconnected I was, because this was literally just my life. There wasn't all these PSAs. You just literally, I never told anyone. I did go to my mother and tell her that I was having really bad periods. And I'll never forget, she took me to the hospital at Galveston, because it was a public hospital. It was for the poors. And the doctor asked me if I had had a miscarriage. The doctor told me by asking me, "Did you have a miscarriage?" The doctor told me. He was trying to protect me. He was trying to not tell my mother, but he brought up a miscarriage. So it took me 15 plus years to figure out that I was pregnant by my uncle as a result of rape, and then I miscarried in the bathroom at school, and then I just went back to class like it was nothing. If you want to know how fucking tough I am, just listen to me talk about my past. And then ask yourself if you ever want to fuck with me. Because a smart person would never, ever fuck with me. If you realize that shit I have survived. I just remember having conversations with Tammy back before I understood who she actually is. Back when I thought she was a good person. And I heard the way she ran Liza into the fucking ground. Like Liza was a piece of shit. And she needed justification for stealing Liza's child. I now get it. So if she posts anything, any Facebook posts from like 2011, 2012, where it's because she posted these Facebook posts, because Tammy did this, I am forced to come out and amend and repent and apologize for ever supporting this cunt. Tammy, you did that. Now I got to talk about your bitch. Now I got to talk about your dumbass. Because that's your big justification, is that we were friends. I would never be friends with the woman you actually are. Just so you know. Knowing what I know about you, had I known those things back then, bitch, I would have been on a fucking crusade against you. I would have done anything I could to save Liza from you, had I fucking known. You abusive, narcissistic piece of shit. And the ghost of Liza has been haunting me. I get it now. I consulted the goddess of witchcraft and necromancy and crossroads and portals the very goddess who guides souls into the underworld. Liza was there. Hecate was there when Liza died. Hecate knows what you fucking did to that girl. And you will never escape the consequences of that. I hope you're fucking listening. I hope that you are listening right now, Tammy. I think you are, because I'm definitely under your skin. I've always been under your skin. It's called The Telltale Heart. You might want to read Edgar Allan Poe. I don't care how you respond to this. It does not matter to me. Go ahead and make a post. Do a 5-hour live stream defending yourself to nobody. Because even the people that are in your chat don't like you. They all talk shit about you behind your back. They're only there for the Eli hate and because they don't like GLM and Flex. Hey, honey, how are ya? They don't like GLM and Flex, and they don't like Eli, and they like trolling them. Me too, honey, me too. I'm getting my ass kicked at my new job, in case you're wondering. I am so fucking tired, dude. I'm so fucking tired. Oh my God, I'm tired. I'm doing okay though. I'm kicking ass, dude. Everybody is just really pleased. Like it's just been nothing but good reviews. I'm really, really, the thing that's keeping me going despite how exhausting and frustrating this process is the fact that everyone is just so, like, my crew is just so grateful for me because they're like, okay, we finally have leadership. And they're just falling in line, and it's like herding cats, dude. Everybody's been doing whatever the fuck they want for years, and I'm in here trying to enforce policies that should have been in place this whole fucking time, and it's not. And I literally have to rebuild the department from the fucking ground up, and it's gonna take time. And I'm telling these assholes, there's a couple people that I'm like, y'all better get with the program. I've already taken the measure. Like, I know who I can trust. I know who I can develop professionally. Like, I'm looking at people. Because I'm like the cheerleader. Because I ain't the boss. Like, I can't fire anybody. But the boss, dude, he's so happy to have me there that he will literally, like, if I tell him, this is the problem and it needs it, like this guy is dude, it's fucking, it's gold. Dude, this is awesome. But I am so fucking tired right now. God. I have to stay awake till at least 7, dude. I wanted to fall asleep while I was at work. I do. And the thing is that I don't argue. You know, whatever they're telling me that needs to happen is what I prioritize. I prioritize, and that's the thing, is the leadership that was in this department before I got there just kind of did whatever the fuck they want. And I'm like, that is not how you succeed. Like, there is a hierarchy. You know what I mean? Like, there is a chain of command. And we all are we all have the same fucking goals. And we all have to be on the same page. So, yeah, it's just going to take some time. It's only been 2 weeks, but I'm already like, I told my boss, I was like, I want it done yesterday, dude. You have to know that I'm just like, I'm just like kind of overwhelmed right now with how much shit that I have to, and they're like, and my boss is telling me just like, dude, you're doing great. Like, my boss is reassuring me, you're doing great. I'm happy with the progress. Just keep it up. I realize it's going to take time. You came into this. This is a fucking dumpster fire, and I appreciate everything you're doing. So the fact that I'm putting so much pressure on myself kind of alleviates the need for him to put pressure on me. You know? And he's got my back. I feel really supportive. I feel really supported. Yeah, but back to Tammy. So, the trauma of being drugged and everything that happened starting in 2015, 2010 when I died, right? No, it goes all the way back to my fucking childhood. And there's a story about newborn puppies that had just really that I told about when I was like 6 years old, when I saw my dad euthanize 5 newborn puppies with a hammer because we were poor, and animal welfare, animal rescue wasn't a thing back in the 70s. And I, at 6 years old, 5 years old, watched my dad euthanize newborn puppies with a hammer. So, if you think I am weak, think again. If you think I'm stupid, think again. I am not the one. Tammy thought I was the one. She tried to make me the one, didn't she? Because she's fucking stupid and low IQ. But anybody with a fucking brain would have known better than to fuck with me after knowing all these things about me, after learning who I actually am, what I have survived. Because my story, I mean, if you're following the Epstein files, I think one of the reasons that it's that I'm able to delve into this is because I have my own experiences. Making a 5-year-old seeing her father euthanize 5 newborn puppies with a hammer, that sounds like Epstein file shit, doesn't it? That's just called being poor and having the harsh realities of life. That's just the harsh realities of life. My dad wasn't trying to be cruel, and he didn't actually mean for me to see that. He went into the basement to take care of that because he didn't want his kids to see it, but I snuck down and I watched it. Because I couldn't figure out where he was taking those newborn puppies. But the funny thing is right before this happened, my mother, because her bitch Shadow had 8 puppies, and we were poor, and we could not afford to take care of 9 dogs. We also had 10 dogs. We had no money. And my dad did the most humane thing that he knew to do under the circumstances. But I'll never forget, in the moment, my mom was hysterical. She was so mad. And my mom, being my mom, she called my brothers and I into the room and said, pick your favorite because your dad's going to kill the other ones. She was pissed at my dad. She was emotional. I can forgive that. Well, I just so happened to pick the healthiest, fattest male of the litter. Somehow, instinctively, I knew which dog was going to survive, had the most likelihood of survival. And I picked the biggest, fattest male. And I called him Fatso. So at 5 years old, I understood things on a level that I didn't know I even understood. I demonstrated wisdom even at 5 years old. So I knew what my dad was going to do, because my mom was pissed and crying hysterically and freaking out. And I think she thought by bringing me and my brothers into it that would somehow move my dad. My dad was a hunter. He was born in 1940, and he had zero sentimentality about animals. To him, because this is native culture. You need to understand that the indigenous people are not sentimental about animals. Even here in Arizona on the res, they call res dogs. Like, I understand that how indigenous people, native cultures feel about animals. They aren't like white women when it comes to pets. Indigenous people do not view animals as pets. They view them as, you know, they have to have a function. You're not going to see some, little native lady carrying around a little purse dog. No. If it doesn't serve a purpose and you can't sustain it, then you have to do the most humane thing, and that's unfortunately euthanasia. Only white people get weirdly sentimental about animals. So I learned at 5 years old a very, very tough lesson. So, yeah. So, I think of Liza. And I think about what that girl went through. And it's clear that these are poor white trash people. Like, these are white trash. These are white trash people. These are not, like, these are low educated, low IQ, white trash people. Like, and I say this because despite having, this last name and this genealogy, which directly connects me to Yeshua, you know him as Jesus, I wasn't raised in that. I was raised on the streets. I'm from the streets, people. I'm from the streets. I'm from the hood. At 12 years old, I was the one who found my father's corpse. So, if you think I haven't been dealing with these issues of life and death from a very young age, but listen to Tammy, listen to this bitch. I want you to think about how that bitch had talked about me despite knowing all this about me. The lack of compassion and empathy this cunt had. And then I want you to imagine how she treated that girl in her care. I want you to think about this. And then I want you to realize that's why Liza's been haunting me this whole time. Because if anybody understands, I do. So Tammy, if you want to get on and do a fucking hate stream, mocking, it's because, here's the thing. Tammy knows what's coming for her. She knows how it all ends for her. She has nothing to lose. She has nothing left to lose. So, there's no redemption for somebody like that. There's no turning things around. There's no a revelation coming to her. She's literally just going to scrounge off of this YouTube business until she can't scrounge no more because she's a scavenger. All right, honey. She's a scavenger. And again, I did let you guys know there is a trigger warning, that this stream would have a trigger warning because the subject matter is extremely hard to hear. It's hard. I get that. Especially if you're outside of it and you haven't had a chance to process. I've had a lifetime to process this trauma. But, when you hear my entire story, when you know the shit I've been through, and then does it really seem that odd that I would eventually develop a drinking problem? What would you do? I wasn't even supposed to survive till now. Multiple attempts were made on my life. And yet I still continue to succeed despite everything. Tammy, you want to call me a drunk? I make more money than you, bitch. I can at least afford to buy alcohol. I can afford my alcohol. I can afford my rent. I can pay my bills. I, I all of my children are still alive, Tammy. And Tammy made a comment on one of her using one of her soccer accounts. It's like, because you never had custody. That's a lie. But also, Liza's dead because you had custody. If you had never gotten custody of that girl, she might still be alive. Had she gone into anybody else's care who actually gave a fuck about her and who wanted to help her, capable of helping her, she might still be alive. You failed. A dead daughter is the ultimate failure, Tammy. You failed worse than my mom. You failed worse than my mom because I'm still alive. And all of my children have a relationship with me. Bitch, you ain't shit. And call the FBI, call the cops. I don't give a shit. You literally burned all those bridges. Nobody cares. No one in authority. Everybody knows about you, Tammy. You cried wolf so fucking bad. You used the cops. You weaponized law enforcement against me so many fucking times that no one is going to take your side. Ever. As soon as they find out about Kiwi Farms and what you did on YouTube because you're fucking stupid, you were so aggressive about me for no fucking reason. When the FBI looked into this and they couldn't figure out what the fuck was wrong with you, you had my rapist on your panel, Tammy. And you mocked me for hours. You paid my son to talk shit about me, Tammy. And then I think of what you did to Liza. And I'm a Hecatean priestess now. Of course I am. When I was, all throughout my life, I would have these experiences where I would not only sense a presence in the room with me, but I would actually see it. It would be like a shimmery, I could see the air shimmer multiple times growing up, and I realize now that it was Hecate. She was always with me. She was waiting for me to be ready. She was protecting me because I wasn't supposed to live. I wasn't supposed to survive. She was always there. And ever since I have embraced witchcraft, embraced her, erected an altar to honor her and acknowledge her, it's not worship. Understand, I'm not over here singing praises. And like, my relationship with Hecate is nothing like my relationship with the God of the Bible. My relationship with Hecate is extremely healthy. Because if I don't do anything with my altar, if I get busy and I let my altar, I don't do anything with my altar. I don't light candles. I don't do any rituals. I don't get punished for that, and I don't feel guilty for it. I'm literally sitting in front of her right now, and I acknowledge her every day. I mean, obviously, I can't help but acknowledge her because there's a bronze statue of her just feet away, and I have to walk by her every time I leave my bedroom. And I always say, "Hi, Mom." It's different worshiping in the goddess. Mothers are maternal and nurturing and protective. If you're a male, you would do yourself a favor by cultivating a relationship with the goddess, because mothers are nurturing and loving and protective. Fathers are not. So when you worship a male god, well, no wonder you don't, like, no wonder you feel less than. You're comparing yourself to a deity who thinks that you're just here to serve them. Hecate does not treat me that way. She doesn't treat me like I'm just here to serve her. She's actually helping me and guiding me. She's actually serving me. Hecate is actually serving me. She's helping me. I'm not diminished because of her. I'm actually elevated by her. She's actually here to help me and guide me and protect me. She's maternal in that way. We call her mother. We just call Hecate mother. You would do well to worship the goddess, to honor the goddess, to acknowledge the goddess, to seek the goddess. Because goddesses are always like maternal. Unless you're fucking with Lilith. And if I gotta channel Lilith because of you, you're in deep shit, motherfucker. If I gotta call upon the Morrigan, if I have to call upon any of the dark goddesses because you're being a fuckwit, we're gonna have a problem. You're gonna have a problem. But my relationship with Hecate is the relationship with the mother I should have had, that I deserved, that I never had. This is why now at 55 years old, I am so against male-centered women. Because my mother was male-centered and she stayed with the man who was sexually assaulting me because she was male-centered. Yeah, I'll never fuck with another male-centered female ever again. Because my mother was male-centered. A woman who is not male-centered would fucking kill a man who laid a hand on her baby. Straight up. If a woman is not male-centered and a man harms one of her babies, he's a dead man. But a male-centered woman will make excuses for the most heinous. That's why do you think all these fucking cunts are out here? Ghislaine Maxwell, male-centered. These cunts in the Trump administration are male-centered. I'm sorry, but with the release, these cunts have read the Epstein files and they're still defending this shit. That bitch, that attorney general, if she were not male-centered, every last member, every last man on the, every motherfucker on the Epstein file would be in prison right now. That cunt is male-centered. That's why we don't that's why we decenter men, ladies. That's why. Because anybody who makes excuses for a fucking pedophile and a rapist, any female who betrays children and other women to defend rapists and pedophiles is no better than a rapist and a pedophile herself. So I have personal experience with this subject, guys. I will never forget the day my stepfather was released from prison. My mother drove up to wherever the fuck, whatever prison he was staying at, and brought him into our home. The home, and I'll never forget, the day she finally kicked him to the curb because she found out he fucked her best friend while they were married. And he's telling me, he picks me up from school. He just shows up and picks me up from school, and he's getting ready to leave for Texas. By the way, he's rotting in a Texas prison because he went down to Texas and touched a bunch of little girls. And where Illinois failed, Texas didn't. So thanks, Texas, I guess. Thank you for that, I guess, Texas. Anyway, so he's driving me home from school. I'm like 13. And he's telling me that I have to forgive him or I will be sent to hell because I refuse to forgive him for what he did to me and to his own daughter, who was younger than me. And by the way, the reason he went to even for a year in prison is because I went over to visit my stepsister while she was living with my stepfather, and she told me that he was making her watch pornography. He was watching porn with her and having sex with her. And that's when I told my mom, I'm calling the cops. You don't want to fucking do the right thing. I'm 12 years old. I'm like, you don't want to do the fucking right thing. I'm doing the right thing. And my mother realized, so that's when she reached out. And I had to go sit in a room full of adults and describe what this man did to me for years. I told you there's going to be a trigger warning. So he always exhibited remorse, and yet he couldn't stop himself. I warned you there would be a trigger warning. You think this is bad? If you can't handle hearing me talk about this, then you should probably not read the Epstein files. What I'm saying is extremely tame. My story is nothing compared to Epstein's victims. I just need you to know that. So he drives me home from school, and the whole time he's bullying me to forgive him. He wants me to tell him that what he did was fine, and I refused. And he pulls up in front of our house, and I get out of the car, and he says, if you don't forgive me, you're going to hell. And I'll never forget this moment. I leaned down, I put my elbows on the window, and I said, yeah, well, you'll be there to shake my hand now, won't you? And then I walked away, and I never looked back. I was 13. Now, keep this in mind. If you're going to fuck with me at all, you need to know this about me. You need to know who I am, and you need to know what I'm about. And you need to know why I do what I do. So when I tell you that Tammy Hess is an evil cunt who abused that girl and stole her child, you can believe me. Because why else would Liza end up the way she did? Tammy fought to get this girl away from this alleged abuse that she was suffering, right? And yet, and the funny fucking thing, like the irony, like I told this bitch to stop talking because every time she opens her mouth, she says something that incriminates herself. And the last thing she said in response to what I said was she wasn't pregnant when I adopted her, which means that you took on the responsibility of protecting this girl and keeping her out of trouble, and you failed that. And when you failed, you blamed her, a child, and then stole her child, kicked her out, and fled the fucking state. So as soon as Chris was born, you realized, oh, I don't need this bitch. I can just take her son. And that's exactly what you fucking did, Tammy. You didn't try to, all you did was run Liza down to me. All you did was run her down. You're a fucking gaslighter. And then I think about what you did to me on Kiwi Farms and what you've done to me on YouTube, what you've done to me for years. And I think, how much worse were you toward Liza? How much worse did you treat Eliza? Okay, I keep saying Eliza, so this is telling me that Elizabeth wants to be called Eliza. Not Liza, Eliza. Guys, I'm a Hecatean death witch. I have Hecate, the angel of death, and Medusa in my spirit team. I do rituals for the dead. And especially those who have died tragically. Unfortunately, one of my specialties is to do rituals and to deal with those who passed tragically. This is why the Epstein files are of such interest to someone like me. It is my fondest wish that Chris be reunited with his father, with his dad, so that he can be set free from Tammy. This is my deepest, fondest desire. Tammy, I am not going to allow you to destroy Eliza's boy for your ego. I'm not allowing it. I don't allow, I don't consent. And Eliza has come to me and asked me to help save her boy. And while I don't have any earthly power, I don't fuck with worldly power. I operate on the spiritual plane. So that's where I'm working right now. I know you're listening, Tammy. You're free to call the cops. I hope you call the FBI. I hope they look into this. I know you're not going to call anybody because you're guilty, and the last thing you need anybody to do is look into you. I've already been looked into. Everything that needs to be known about me is already known. I am not a mystery. You, however, have a lot of secrets. You spend an inordinate amount of time trying to twist your version of events to make people believe things that are not true. I can guarantee you that the FBI looked into me and they looked into you. They looked into you, Tammy. You got in on their radar. You're so stupid. You called the FBI. You were so up Haugus's ass and up my ass that you made yourself part of all of it. And do you think the FBI at all thinks that is impressed by you? The FBI thinks that you're white trash, Tammy. They think you're white trash. And all I'm saying is that you should probably make sure that Chris ends up you do not have long for this world. You're in terrible health. You can barely walk. You have no future. Karma is coming for you. And Chris needs to be reunited with his dad. You have to make arrangements. Understand that you can't just give Chris away like he's a thing, like a pair of old shoes. You cannot bequeath Chris to some internet rando. That right there is proof that you are an unfit parent. That you're like, so-and-so, some person from YouTube is going to take Chris when I die or when I go to prison. I'm just going to give Chris away to some rando on the internet while his dad is literally still alive and in the picture. The fact that you didn't even consider. You didn't even consider. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You fucking psycho. You know you're fronting right now, right? And we all know it. You know that even people who support you on your channel, they're buddy trolling you. They literally talk shit about you in Discord. Nobody likes you. No one. No one likes you. You posted under a GNA sock account hoping that I would think it was Jamie. Jamie will never defend you. Not to me. He knows better. Jamie doesn't want that smoke. He does not want that smoke. And I don't want to give it to him. I don't want to go to war with Jamie. He knows how I feel. I don't hate Eli, but I don't hate Jamie either. So, y'all need to fucking figure it out. These two grown-ass men need to figure their shit out and go and be grown-ass men, because this is bullshit what you guys do to each other. And the fact that you two keep going at it is why Tammy thinks that she has a foothold in all of this. So I need you to realize I'm involved because that cunt is involved. And neither one of you want to be on my bad side, is all I'm saying. Is all I'm saying. So yes, I'm going to shut this down because honestly I don't know what else to say. Like I said, y'all need to get to know me a little bit. You need to know where I come from. That I'm not cosplaying being a witch. This is not a cosplay. I am a witch. It doesn't get more real than this. I am a legitimate 1000%. I am a witch. I come from a bloodline. I am bloodline. The women in my family have always been witches. We're born this way. We can't help it. Those of us who deny our heritage always end in a bad way. But those of us who embrace it always rise to power. And never trust a broke ass witch. Never trust an ugly witch. If a woman says she's a witch and she's not hot, she's not sexy, she's not knowledgeable, she's not successful. By the way, Taylor Swift is a witch. Stevie Nicks, also a witch. Florence from Florence and the Machine, these are witches. These are high witches. These are women who have achieved great levels of success using witchcraft. That is a real witch. Tammy is not. She's a bad witch. She's not successful. She'll never be successful. She has offended the goddess of witchcraft. If you are in good with Hecate, you can do no wrong. You should know this. You can't fuck up. You can't make a mistake. You will be protected at every turn. Nothing can touch you if you're a witch. If you are in good with Hecate. everything will just simply work out in your favor all the time. And anyone who crosses you will just kind of go away and end badly. You know, like they found Helgus in his truck at work. And how Tammy can barely walk and has no money. And yet I'm doing great. I'm doing wonderfully. Everything's working out in my favor all the time, every day, every minute of every day. I am blessed. I am protected. I am whole. I am holy. And I live with two strapping young men, 124 or 125. And both of them will snap your fucking neck if you fuck with me. You understand? I'm well protected. I manage a team of young men. Yeah, everybody on my team is like younger than me. They're all male. And they all view me with respect. When I ask them to do something, they fucking do it. I'm the matriarch. I am the matriarch. I don't have to kiss anybody's ass. I literally show up and say, this needs to be done. And they're like, okay. I asked one of my associates today, one of my team members today, I said, hey, I need you to do this thing. He literally did it right then. He's like, okay. Because that's what I do. I always get my way. And I don't do it through threats or intimidation. I don't have to. I simply explain this has to be done, and they understand. Yes, you're right. I don't argue. I'm not going to argue. I was literally put in this position. Do not argue with me. You are paid to do as you were told. I am paid to tell you what to do. And I'm not asking you to do anything that is outside the realm of your responsibilities that you agreed to when you took this job. And so you're going to do it, or I'm going to remove you and find someone who can. And it is just that simple. No emotion, no argument. It's not personal. It's business. It's business, honey. Now, you can either get on my team, or you can go on somebody else's team. I don't care, but you're not going to argue with me and fight with me because I have the backing of my management team. And that is just how it's going to be. You either do what you're supposed to do while you're here because you agreed to that when they hired you, or I will simply remove you. I have no sentiment. I watched my father euthanize 5 newborn puppies when I was 5 years old. I have no sentiment left. We do what we have to do. And if you give a fuck about your own survival and your own future, then I guess you're going to get on board. Because I don't have time to baby you. You're not an infant. I'm not a babysitter. I have things that need to be done, and you're going to do them. So this is how I manage. But I don't need to bully and yell and scream. I simply say, this has to be done. And, oh, you didn't do it? Okay, why? If you have a good enough reason for not doing the thing I asked you to do, if you can say, well, I didn't get it done because of this, then I'll be like, okay, fine. That's not a problem. Let's go ahead and get it done. But if you're just blowing me off because you don't respect my authority, because you don't think I'm serious about this, I am very serious. I am deadly serious about what needs to happen. And you're going to do it, or I'm going to find somebody who can. Your choice, darling. I am not in charge of your life. I'm in charge of mine. And you're not doing your job affects my life. And so because I am in charge of everything that affects my life and my success, if you want to stay in my circle of influence and you want to be a part of my team, then you better do what you got to do, because I ain't playing. I'm not your mommy, and I'm not going to make excuses for your failures. It's just business, honey. It's just business. So that's how I operate. That is literally how I operate. That's how I view my position. I have things that need to be done. I have things that are expected of me. Deadlines I have to meet. Obligations I have agreed to. And I take those things very seriously. But in order to meet my obligations, I have to have a team that meets their obligations. So I am simply going to surround myself with a team that feels the same way I do and isn't trying to sabotage my success. And I have the full backing of my entire management team. That's how I run things. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I am simply trying to make sure that what needs to be done gets done. No, there's literally nothing personal about it. It's literally just, it's personal to me because it's my job. And it's how I pay rent. It's how I pay my bills. It's how I grow in the world. So I have no doubt that the wheat shall be separated from the chaff, and the weakest ones will fall away. And I will be given the right team to become successful. I have no doubt of this. None whatsoever. So, yes, Tammy, I am not the one, darling. You want to call me a drunk? Okay. Who cares? Nobody cares, because guess what? I show up and I get the job done. You sit behind your computer 20 hours a day talking shit because you can't. Because those who can't like to talk about those who can. And you're one of the ones who cannot. You're one of the ones who can't. And Liza, her ghost is haunting me. And I am here to get justice for her. So I hope Chris is reunited with his dad and set free from you once and for all. Because that's what Liza wants for her son. That is not your son. You stole him. We both know it. Everybody knows it. So, anyway, y'all have a good night.